Well, good afternoon. What I'm going to present is a little bit bizarre, yes? All you Sanskritists, you don't know colors of Sanskrit, yes? So what is it? It's actually an artifact. It's a side effect of my work on segmentation. So let me go quickly through the background. This all started with some Sanskrit to French lexicon, and then I got it as a hypertext document. Then I wrote a morphology generator, and then I implemented Sandivicheda, so how to reduce Samhita Pada to Pada. This is what it is doing. And this is implemented as a regular transducer. And regular is a technical word that means representable by finite automaton. So this was put on as a website already 20 years ago. And then I started my cooperation with some Sadhani group, yes. And I wrote some shallow parser, and with Pawan Goyal, we turned this segmenter into a graphic interface that, because the segmenter was generating so many solutions that it was very impractical. But by putting all these solutions in a shared fashion as a graph represented in one web page, then it became much more usable. And I think this is a useful tool. It's used by many beginners. And it can be used for teaching elementary Sanskrit. Okay, so I don't need that. Okay, so let us start with the basic colors. We will start with this Panini Sutra 1414, Suptinantam Padam. So, sup, it's the pratyaya that are used to construct nominals, and ting is the one that generates the final verb forms. So here, Vavarsha Rudiram, this is ting, and this is soup. The soup is blue, and ting is red. Okay? So this is easy enough. And these colors, they merely indicate part of speech. Yeah? They don't indicate any karaka, any semantic role. So here I have Bhimo Rudiram Pibati, and Bhima is the agent, yes, and Rudiram is the object, karma, and they are both blue. Okay, so this is just part of speech. And let me make a side remark about Suptinantam Padam. So you could say Sanskrit words are either nominals or verbal forms. But it's a little bit misleading to say it this way, because it's not a partition of the padas into the sub-generated and the tin-generated. Yes? So if you take a word like gachati, which color should it be? Any idea? Gachati? It could as well be a soup, yes, because it could be a present participle, and then in Saptami, gachati is while going. Okay? So you have to keep that in mind, that it's not a partition. Yes? A given pada may be formed by different means. Now we have a few additional colors. I'm not putting the vocative in the blue part because the vocative are not really part of the sentence. Yes, they are part of the enunciation conditions. Okay, so they don't participate to the construction of the sentence. It's like a comment on the conditions of utterance of the statement. Okay, and so I chose to have a very different color, acid green, so that you will notice it. It's important because it's a big case of ambiguity. Vocatives of stems in are the same as the stem form that is used in compound formation. Okay, so it's a case of ambiguity. So if you find some segmentation with a green color, then you have to be alert and relate it to the document. You know, is it some kind of dialogue, and what are the persons that could be addressed? Okay, so this is for the green. Then the undeclinables. Undeclinables are usually grammatical words. They don't have any. They are not content words. They are grammatical, like cha or va, or some adverbs, like adieu today. Then another category is pronouns. So pronouns are light blue. It's almost like a noun. It's a reference to a noun. So this is the idea. And so here is some kind of crazy input sentence. Your Majesty, today my wife is cooking. Okay, so these are the basic colors. But when we go into compound, then we don't, I mean, we could represent compounds as blue, yes, but if you have some kind of long compound, you would like to break it into its segments, yes, and the segments will be, in general, the stem forms. And I've chosen the yellow color for stem form. Okay, so here we see that we are, the segments are not always padas. Yeah? Here it's a pratipadika, just a stem. So the compound pada will be yellow followed by blue. And when you have embedded compounds, you will have yellow, 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 blue. Okay? All right. So here is an example of a longer compound. This is a Douandois compound with horses, sheep, and camels. See? So here we have the three components, the horses, sheep, and camels. And two are yellow, and the last one is blue. So the only one, the blue, were the vibhakti. And these are just pratipadikas. Okay, so far so good. And now there may be ambiguities in compounding. Okay, when you have an embedded compound such as dasharata putraha, then it could be theoretically analyzed as dasharata putraha or dasha rata putraha. So this succession of yellow and blue is not denoting a unique compound. It may denote variety of grouping together the stems in order to make compounding. Okay, so you have so the machine is not giving you a representation of unique compounds. It's what I call pre-compounds. So these pre-compounds, you have to make a further analysis of how the various segments are grouped together and in which kind of compound in order to analyze a pre-compound into a precise compound. Now, here I've gotten rid of the ambiguity by actually choosing the first one, Dasharata Putraha. And Dasharata, it's a proper name, so I glue together the two stems, yes, because it's a proper name. So if you do this kind of thing, then many ambiguities will vanish. So here is a larger one. That's a famous one that appears at the beginning of Panchatantra. It has 10 components. So the principal kings, from their crown, the jewel would emit rays that would illuminate, the group together would illuminate the pair of feet of the king. See, you're praising some king that is so great that all the kings around, yes, they are just good enough to illuminate the feet of the king. So this is, the charm of Sanskrit poetry. And if you try to translate that in English, and you lose everything. You lose everything, yes. You have to say the feet of the king, blah, 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 by the main kings. Okay, so you're losing all the effect. Yes. So my point of view is that Sanskrit is untranslatable. Yes, and people should learn how to read the real text. Yes, or else poetry will be just mangled. Okay. Now, all we had were Tatpurushas and Dvandvas so far. Now we are getting into possessive exocentric compounds, the Bahuvrihi. And Bahuvrihi, it's a different kind of beast, see, because it's not a Visheshya, it's a Visheshana. Okay, so it means it's not, you cannot understand it stand alone. You have to associate it with a Visheshya. Okay, so it's like an adjective. So they may transform their right-hand component in order to assign the compound some gender that is not allowed in the original right-hand nominal. Okay? So in terms of parsing, the gender is not a synthesized attribute, but it's inherited from the surrounding noun phrase, head. Okay? This is something which is a difficulty for beginners, and this is a very common construction. So, for instance, typical one is pitambaraha. See? It's not a cloth which is yellow. It's he who wears a yellow garment. Yes? And so you have to assign it the gender masculine or feminine. Here it's masculine. Typically this is an epithet of Vishnu. Yes? But this masculine form, hambaraha, of its right component, it's not a valid form of the neuter substantive ambaram. Okay, this is not a correct form. So it's only when you construct the Bahuvri that you have to erase the original vibhakti and put the vibhakti which is inherited from the noun. It qualifies. Okay? So I don't want to have them blue, and I want to bring your attention to the fact that it's a Bouvrier construction. Okay, so here is a case where it's obvious that it's a Bouvrier, yes, because precisely it's not a form of emballam. Okay, so we generate. So in my machinery, you have to generate extra form for such substantives, usable only in IFC, infinite composite, on right side position, and I color them in this cyan color. Okay. And the same mechanism is used to enter forms of lexical entries which are restricted to the IFC role, like kara. The kara is not a standalone pada, as it can be used only as the right-hand side of a compound like kumbhakara. Okay, so the kara is also in this cyan color. So far, so good. It's nothing surprising relating to Sanskrit morphology, yes. But there are some difficulties. Here is a trick. See? We have a difficulty concerning feminine substantives, like Darmstadt. First, they must generate an IIC ended in the feminine suffix R. See? So it's not just the Pradipadika, the first part. It's the Pradipadika with the feminine suffix, Darmstadt. So Darmstadt, Kara, Lahaha, exhibiting horrific fangs. But the difficulty is that we must also license a segment in the masculine stem, Darmstadt, to allow constructing a Bahuvrihi compound, which is itself usable as left component of further compounds. There is a slight difficulty here. So I use this khaki color in order to signal the difficulty. See, because here this looks like a compound, but this is not actually an IIC. It's an IFC of the inside compound. Okay? This difficulty is, I don't know if it has been analyzed in the Sanskrit tradition. Panini deals only with generation. Yes? He tells you how to generate padas. Okay? So he does not need to discuss this kind of problem, which is Shabdaboda, rather than generation. Okay? All right. This occurs relatively rarely. Yes, so this is a little bit a contrived example. Yes, but you must allow for it, or else it's not complete. And for the compounds are not always just green, yes, because you can make compounds in Sambodhana. Okay, so here I have three vocatives. Okay. I honor thou, great illusion, enthralled by fortune, blessed by the gods. More on frozen compounds. So now we have seen all the regular nominal compounds, but there exists also exceptions. See, the regular compounds, they have two main properties. The first one is look. Look means that on the left part, on the left segment, you delete the vibhakti and you keep only the pratipadika, only the stem. Okay? But also, usually you don't have retroflexion, because retroflexion does not cross over the compound frontier. Okay? But one of these two conditions is not met, the compound must be lexicalized. So, for instance, agrevanam, border of the wood. See, it's a compound which is both a look, you don't delete the subtami agre, and furthermore, you have retroflexion that spills over the compound boundary. Okay? So this is relatively rare, but it happens, for instance, for a few compounds made with Vana. Vana does not have retroflexion. Retroflexion comes from the R of agre. Okay? And this is taken care of by Panini Sutra, by the way. So there is no hole in Panini. So these compounds are in small number, mostly to form proper names, like Vedic names that are frozen, like Janam Ejaya, Janam Ejaya. Okay, so it's Dvitiya and Janam. Okay, and Ramayana. Ayana does not have retroflexion, yes, but in Ramayanam you have retroflexion. Which does not occur, by the way, if you have a son named Ram and you say, I'm going to tell you about the travels of my son, yes? You should not put the retroflexion because the rule is that it does not spill. So it's only historical remain for Ramayana and a few proper names. Okay, we are not done with compounds. Compounding is complex in Sanskrit. So another family is referred by the name Avyayī Bhava, turned into an indeclinable. So typical representative is Yata Vridi, according to the phase of the moon. Okay, so it's formed from some undeclinable kind of adverb, and it's joined with the right part, which is a special form, which is a neuter singular form. Okay, and here we have a problem of vibhakti, see, because vridi, it's not a proper pada. Okay? It's not a form of vridi, which is a feminine stem. Okay, so it can occur only in this kind of situation where you're making a compound that turns an indeclinable into a full adverb. And so I use the color of adverbs, indeclinables, purple. And for the IIC, I use some kind of pink. So it evokes compounding, but with slightly different colors. So you can spot that it's an adverbial. See, all these colors are not just to make the screen nice. Yes, it's to help you select the correct decomposition of the sentence. Okay, and now absolutives. Absolutives are colored mauve, keeping with their adverbial nature. Let me skip this example. And this Avyayī Bhava compound family, it's not, some are very irregular. Okay, so it's some kind of weird family. Like you have a Supa Prati with some sauce. See, here the Prati is on the right side rather than the left. Okay, And yes, these absolutives, they are credentas. Yes, and there are many credentas. Most of them are participles, and they are colored blue. Yes, because they are nominals. But in the interface, you can see their credenta nature, because if you click on this colored rectangle, then you get the you get the actual morphological construction. Okay, so it tells you that it's a participle coming from that root with some suffix and so on. And other generative adverbs are the so-called tacile, like ubayata, which are colored mauve also. So you have some variety of undeclinables. Now, finite forms of verbs are usually represented as a single segment. That is the potential preverbs. They are glued to the root form. This is contrary to the original design of my segmenter, where the preverbs were kind of floating in the screen. So it was rather confusing. So now the preverbs are analyzed separately by the segmenter, but when I show it to the user, I glue all the preverb prefix to the root. So verbal forms are one segment. And blah 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 blah. Let me not go into all these details. And another variety of compounding. Now this is verbal compounding, the so-called periphrastic perfect forms. It's the usual perfect goes by duplication of the root. And sometimes duplication is awkward on certain roots. So you can use this other construction in which you have actually two segments, and one is a special form in arm, like awesome, and the right-hand side is a verbal form, but only of the auxiliaries, as, bu, and cur. Okay, so for instance, here is a crazy sentence, asam chakre, hwayam asa cha, and here we have two periphrastic perfect forms, one on cur and one on as. So maybe a Paninian purist will say, oh, this is not a compound, what are you talking about? But I assimilate them as some kind of a verbal compound, because it's nice to show the two segments. And then you have verbal compounds with gatis. So this is the so-called chi, inchoative construction. So it allows root forms of the three auxiliaries to be prefixed with special nominal stems in e, or sometimes u. Okay, so here you will recognize some of this gati vasi, basmasat, lagu, and each accompanied with its verbal form of an auxiliary, but that works also on credentas. Okay, so here cretam is credenta, so it's blue. All right, so we are almost done, but there is one last productive morphological construction, exemplified here by the compound back to kama. He who is desirous of speaking. Okay, so its left component is an infinite form. Here it's vacuum, to speak, yes? But you deprive it of the M, okay? So it's like doing look, but on infinitive, okay? And the right-hand side is a form of kama, mana, or shakya. This is kind of rare. The usual ones are in kama. So this construction is not very frequent, but it is productive. It's used by the best authors. It's stated as a vartika to this sutra. So it must therefore be accommodated as a specific construct. So we use the orange color for the infinitive segment back 2, while we use the cyan color for the IFC segment kama. So by analogy with the previous compounds. Okay, so here is an example. Punarapi, Vaikukama, Ivaria, Lakshyate. So here we have some complex Sandhi, see, where Visarga is dropped. Okay. And so that concludes all the kind of regular construction in Sanskrit, I'm claiming. So there are some unusual formation that you have to decide whether it's treated as some kind of productive scheme or whether it's put in some database of exceptions. Okay. So you have a sutra that is used for that. It's some kind of garbage can of various constructions. So you have bizarre isolated items like Jai Joda in the habit of hitting one chin. I don't know where that comes from. So all these are rare, irregular, so they are lexicalized once and for all. So I asked myself, should I put a special scheme for schemas like Ashnita Pibata. This is kind of weird compound that is built from two imperatives, eat and drink, yes, that are glued together, and then you put the feminine suffix, okay, and that becomes a subanta, which means it's some kind of festive occasion. Yes, where everybody is supposed to drink and eat and drink a lot. Okay, so I could have included this scheme, but then I would have to introduce two more colors just for this crazy construction. Yes, one for the imperative as ISC, and one for the imperative with feminine marker as IFC. And actually, the Ganapata lists only 12 such attested substantives. So I claim the construction is not productive, and so I don't admit this as a generic scheme. I just enter the 12 items in my lexicon, and that's it. One last color is this black. Black means incorrect. Incorrect. So this is part of some story. You have a a kind of bad pandit was carried by some porters who are better in Sanskrit than him. Yes, and the porters are almost naked, and it's very cold. So the pandit says, "Api shita badati, aren't you cold?" And oh my gosh, he's using parasmayipada for bad. So this is forbidden. Yes. So the porter answered, "Na tata badate sitam, yata badati." Okay, so so it's an incorrect form, yes, but you can make statements with incorrect forms. Like yes, this is like a quotation. Okay, so now this finish. I have very few colors. See, I claim I am covering all Sanskrit morphology with 10 colors. So now let us come to the point of what is the linguistic status of these colors. See, what linguistic information is transmitted by the colors is not quite straightforward. For one thing, segments are often ambiguous in the sense of having several morphological tags. So even though you have only one rectangle, yes, if you click on it, then you will see that it may have several vibhaktis. Okay, so it's the job of the further process that will do the actual parsing from the pada. Okay, and then you have to decide the bracketing of the compounds also, because you have only these pre-compounds. So for all these reasons, the colors do not express a clear notion of part of speech, but rather express some minimal combinatorial structure induced by segmentation. Okay? So actually, this is where the colors are coming from, the finite automaton of my segmenter. See? So you can, all verbal forms are here, all nominal forms are here, indeclinables, avyayi bhava, this infinitive into construction and pronouns. And then all the details that you get the absolutives in ya and absolutives in toi in two different situations, whether you have preverb or not. So this is all taken care by the automaton. Okay. So I claim this is this is a way to express that Sanskrit morphology is regular in this technical sense, that it's finitely representable by a finite automaton. Okay. In the paper, I do some yapping on psychology of colors, see, because what matters is that the colors are distinct, so that you can recognize them. But I could paint them any color. But the red is good to tell you this is a verb. This is where action is. Okay, so it's kind of a dynamic pada. Yes, whereas the blue, they are nominals. Yes, so they are of a colder color. I don't insist very much on this, but somehow these color codings have some rational, psychological, conceptual triggers. And this is important from the point of view of helping the user to select the appropriate segmentation solution. Okay, so it's a problem of user interface, but it's important. User interfaces are important. So that's my conclusion. I've given a complete description of a notion of color which characterizes the sorts of Sanskrit morphemes necessary to account for the notion of pada. All productive constructions of surface Sanskrit morphology are covered. So we may consider this notion of color as some kind of notion of parts of speech appropriate for Sanskrit, Segment colors are not independent since the color transitions are governed by the Sanskrit segmenting finite automaton when recognizing the palette. So our colors indicate parts of speech categories, but now obeying algebraico-geometric laws corresponding to their mutual interactions as morphemes in pada production. So they are obtained as some quotient of the state space of the segmenting automaton. Done.
So questions? Question?
It's not a question but a comment. Some 10, 15 years ago, when there was a question about what are the parts of speech in Sanskrit, this question arose, and then people wanted to develop a part of speech tagger. And now here lies the answer: how many parts of speech are necessary for Sanskrit? And these are all morphological considerations, because Sanskrit, we know, has rich morphology. Syntactically, we have other information, but it is in position, very little information is there. Whatever is there in the compound formations, that position matters, but otherwise the transition from one part of speech to another, there are certain constraints, and which are very well represented by your finite state automata. So now we have a part of speech tagger for Sanskrit, I can say. Or we know what are the parts of speech from computational point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first, humans teach the machines. Can the machines teach humans something? Is there some algorithm that you developed? Is it good for humans as well, or of no use for humans? I mean, if I would want to become a machine, would the algorithm help me?
Well, maybe I can say something about my initial motivations. I was interested in reading in the original Sanskrit text, because I found translations were very confusing. The same text could have many variations in translation, so I wanted to understand. But it was very hard for me. I started Sanskrit at a late age, so I could not do Sandhi Vicheda. This was just too hard. So I thought, okay, let's build a machine that will do it for me. Okay? And actually, this turned out to be a nice computer science problem. Okay? So I don't know if this answers your question. But doing the machine helped me a lot to understand, what is Sanskrit morphology, and how the segments relate to each other, and what are your choices for choosing characters and so on. So, and I have quite a few customers, so some people think it's helpful.
No, I think it is helpful. Anybody who has used these tools, even while you are at the learning stage of Sanskrit, it does help. I mean, I can say that.